However, the area is one where the demograph is of low income families on temporary jobs very often. And so one of the challenges that we have is that our children, when they enter our school at 3 years old, come in with very low levels of attainment, particularly in their skills in speaking and communicating, and their approaches to learning and their social behaviour. So we've got a bit of an uphill climb to do before the children leave us at 11 years old. So we have to be very creative and dynamic about the way in which we approach learning at school. Well, we've got a very creative and flexible and committed staff that work with us. And, you know, that we have a pupil body that are really excited about learning. And we work really hard to do that. By the time the children leave at 11, we're really very proud of the fact that their attainment is in the top 10% nationally. But we're teachers and leaders just like you, and what we actually know, absolutely, is that in between that time, from 3 to 11, there's an awful lot of investment in hard work. So, we're going to have a look at an overview of what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to focus around how we invest in that excellence, how we approach the learning in terms of all that goes on behind the work that we do. And then obviously we're going to talk a bit about how we use the technology. But you'll notice at the bottom there's something called golden thread. I'm going to talk a bit more about this later on. But what the golden thread is very much about is a very consistent approach in everything we do by everybody who is in the organisation. And that's a really important aspect of what we do in getting that consistency. And then at the end, we're just going to focus around what the future is going to bring for us and maybe for you. So we divide it into 3 different elements. We're going to look at the learning, always first, because that's the most important element of everything that we do. We're going to look at the organisation, the technology, but as I say, we're going to start with the learning. Investing in excellence is our tagline. That's what we're about. And as it says here, excellence isn't something you do, it's something you do all the time. It's not an act, it's not a single moment. It's a consistent and habitual way of being. Well, what we invest in is an aspiration to do the very best for our children in everything that we do. We're servants of a community that we serve, and part of that challenge for us, particularly when it comes to the use of technology, is to bridge that relationship between the home and the school. Now, our children are very much users of technology at home, and so are our families. And they'll invest in smartphones and iPads and other technology, game devices. And they'll invest in that before they invest in the kind of daily essentials. So it's the kind of culture that our children come from. So it's incumbent upon us to ensure that those children then, when they get to school, don't find themselves in a situation where they are powering down from the technology that they've been using at home. And unfortunately, I think that we are still in a situation in our schools where that's very much the case. They are power users in the home, and then they come into schools and find that the equipment's not available. And that for us was very much the case until fairly recently. And how things have changed for us in the way in which we've moved forward. We also invest very heavily in the people that teach in our school. So whether they're teachers or whether they're support staff, That investment is really, really important. And what we did before we rolled out our iPads in our one-to-one scheme is 18 months beforehand, we invested in rolling that out to the adults. And so we gave them iPads, and we asked them to do some research, to play with the technology, to see what they could do in terms of working creatively with that. And that made a huge difference for us. And what we found was that that kind of favourite way of being around the corridors was walking about with your iPad tucked under your armpit, because it became such a crucial part of their toolkit for teaching. I think one of the last things I wanted to say before we moved on is that our investment financially in equipment has been very, very low over the last probably 6 or 7 years, when we did our last investment, which was in an IT suite. Instead, what we've done is we've trialled with lots of different devices, and in fact have only had, for quite some time, one iPad in each classroom, because we wanted people to play with this and be creative about what you could do with it.
Yes, we come from a legacy of cabled-in ICT suites that then died a death, and we went to laptops around the school, and we've moved on to the touch technologies that we use now. And the demand for using things like Twitter to show our parents what we do, to use electronic communications for everything, to get rid of the paper chase, to reduce workload and increase efficiency across our organisation has gone up and up. We took a huge leap of faith at Christmas, and we rolled out 225 mini iPads, one-to-one, to all our 8 to 11-year-olds in the school. And we did it all at the same time. Some of the children take home their iPads daily, some of them take them home sometimes for a block of work for a while, so they're not just used in school. We've always, as soon as our children get into school, age 3, and come to our nursery, given them a device as soon as they walk in the door. We sometimes say they have an iPad or a camera before a pencil, because they can use it straight away and they can immediately tell their story with it. We like to start them really young.
Well, we're going to give you a bit of a whistle-stop tour of some of the approaches that go on behind the use of technology, the approaches within learning that we think really make a significant difference. So what we want to do is to empower the children to be users of technology in a very creative way, but the most important thing for us is about the choices that are available to them. And we give children the autonomy to make the choice. So whatever equipment and whatever devices they're using, whether it's their personal iPad or class iPads or other equipment that's around in the school, the choice is 100% theirs. And we invest very heavily in them making that choice. Well, we've been asked to kind of share this leadership journey, and as I said before, we're teachers and we're leaders just like you, and this is our story. And as I say, to understand that journey with technology, you have to understand some of the ways in which we approach how we feel about learning and how we communicate that with our learners. It's just one model. We're on a journey, very much. We're certainly not at a destination, but we're very happy to share this with you.
These are core values. 8 years ago, we got all our community together, our teachers, our support staff, and our children, and we asked everybody, what do you need to know to learn? What attributes do you have to have, and beliefs that you do well? And we came up with a comprehensive list of 4 core values that most people felt they could resonate with. I brought them, we have posters and we have characters that explain these around the school, and we live and breathe them in school because we all wrote them. Respecting. We want everyone to value and celebrate diversity and difference in their learning, relationships and interactions. And these are statements of what that looks like.